sir.
Yeah.
Okay, good. How are you? How are you today?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Let me first of all just extend my protocols to the President General of Ohaneze. Under whose auspices, of course, we are gathered here today. Of course, our chairman, a very good friend of mine, he spoke so well. My colleagues on the panel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Igbo ekene muno. Biko onye ndebelu ndị anya nọ n'afọ. Let me first of all appreciate the organizers of this webinar for putting together a session on Ohaneze yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It is very significant that they decided on this particular theme or topic because it would appear to me that almost every Igbo man and woman has come to understand that Ohaneze is the platform on the basis of which we can begin to develop unity, which has been eluding us for quite some time. And perhaps to buttress that understanding of Ohaneze among most Igbos, apart from the misgivings that have also been raised in many, many quarters, I would like to say that a couple of years ago, I had attended the Nigerian Society of Engineers conference in Bauchi, in Kano, and in Ondo states. At each of these conferences, we always had the privilege of talking to our younger engineers from the Southeast, from the Igbo area and so on. And I recall that when we also passed through Bauchi, the same thing repeated itself in Kano and also in Ondo states. Some of the questions came from the participants in those our outings, and the question was, what is actually Ohaneze saying in terms of the future of Ndigbo, Nigeria? So that obviously tells you that the only body, if I remember, Bo Ohaneze, they never asked us questions about even the Southeast Governors Forum Nebu. They did not say even the Traditional Council Nebu. All that they remembered was Ohaneze, Kedifa Ohaneze Nebu, which seemed to show that Nongwelo, a particular attachment in the Bayebeni Nongwelo towards Ohaneze, perhaps as a platform that would bring us together for sustainability within the context of one Nigeria. Perhaps this is why it's important to appreciate why they have put up this theme, believing that is we're going in a Bible, seek first the kingdom of God, and that every other thing will be added unto you. Hence, the issue of unity, which has been eluding us, will obviously begin to give us a different sustainable path of to our development. So I can the organizers for having chosen that theme, because we believe that now it will contribute immensely to righting some of the wrongs that have afflicted Igbo land for quite some time. I also want to thank the organizers for asking me to deliver this keynote address. I do not know why I was asked to deliver the keynote address, but it would appear to me that, okay, well, there's some reasons that compelled Emeka, the leader of these organizers, to approach me to deliver the keynote address. To me, I actually turned down the request to deliver the address. And it came about 2 or 3 times. And when I saw that he persisted, of course, I thought it therefore necessary to do something. But I was concerned that about just 2 weeks ago, and that's things are going to be done in Nigeria, in Igbo land, and perhaps Nigeria. So sorry. Now this is something that we should have prepared for a long time ago, and given enough time for us to be able to do all that that is required in this type of paper. But be that as it may, I decided that I try as much as possible to put my paper and more or less, instead of delivering it as an oral thing, to capture it in a document that can be circulated to all the participants and perhaps Igbos that are also beyond here, knowing fully well that there wouldn't be enough time to be able to talk about the content of this paper here. So, when I say Ivebo ma razela kan lali pe ma boy be isiokwu na the paper mo agede kinye. Onwelu nwoke bayi ana akpo nwoke kenwigiri. Oge obuna ejebesi meeting abayi ejebe town union meeting abayi. Nwoke kenwigiri amanje meeting oje na olu na a particular spot. On a particular spot, ejesiza meeting basa. Meeting na putaze. Nwoke kenwigili offer the first person put on the meeting. Ojoya kekene nke bu isiokwu na meeting eme tata. Agwazi anyị ife bụ isiokwu na meeting eme. Nwoke kenwigili akolozia we gaba. Kozia more than ife mepu na meeting. Ndị Enugu kwu we decide na baga akpọzi anya. And I'm hoping, therefore, that Nama Choka to Charlie Vebusioku, my paper lay before us, in the hope that the organizers would make available this paper to everybody, because I'm sure that it will require that we should all study this paper as a way of guiding us as to the future requirements. I will make a reposition and re-engineer Ohaneze for sustainability. The outline of my paper obviously will look at the Igbo State Union. That is the Igbo Union, of course, I'm going to begin with. Makana, quite often, we have failed also to differentiate between Igbo State Union and the Igbo Union. I will try and look at the growth and the development of the Igbo Union, and hopefully try and deal with the contributions of Igbo Union to the wellness of Igbo land. And even about the Igbo State Union, which obviously came as a result of other circumstances that informed that era. The Igbo State Union, we will also try and look at what are the key components that informed the growth of the Igbo State Union. And Ohaneze after the Igbo State Union, how we eventually came to become the Ohaneze that we have today. Noting, of course, that Ohaneze actually started from Apex Social Organization of Ndigbo. It was that Apex Social Cultural Organization of Ndigbo, the Ohaneze, that we are all concerned that we would begin to rebuild so that it can hopefully respond to the needs of taking Igbo land to the next level. I would then hopefully conclude with the Constitution of Ohaneze, and hope how well have we implemented that Constitution, and probably try and give some synopsis of what we need to do to reposition and re-engineer Ohaneze for sustainability. I would end finally with my thoughts as to the way forward, in the hope that as we begin to usher in the new Ohaneze, that they will hopefully be saddled with some of the fine points that we have recommended as to how Ohaneze can now be taken to the next level. And I think we'll end finally with that. And let me probably say primarily that every group na them webe organizational formats na they are associated with that group. And Ndigbo, it has always been Ndigbo, and perhaps a country called Somalia that have always had that traditional democratic system in their domain. And of course, it's something that we have all been used to, in which the village square has acted as a basis for allowing particularly the adults, to come together, to reason together, and to work out and that traditionally has always been the case. Some people may actually wonder, are we saying no? That, I think, is not the issue that we are trying to bring out here. But traditionally, even up to today, if you go to a town union, you will find that not mostly male adults now participate in the meetings of the town union. But that does not mean that the women have not also played very significant roles in the development of union. For instance, if you remember the Abaya riot, revolt against the British rule. And therefore, the women will also participate, do their meetings, but quite often they will bring their decisions to the men's platform, and therefore the women have also been very potent instruments in the development of these town unions. The Igbo Union, of course, I think that our chairman, spoke to it, of course, when he talked. Even the British government would na a town. Moa amulum nenuguku. Ama maybe my village in Nenuguku. Achobam Ejen Nenuguga, maybe Achotam. We have always had our town unions. And on our Dimka, Otundi Bosia Mife, Ogobuna Fajelo, whereby into a town, quite often they join, the first thing they join is the town union Nabefa. And as pointed out, it also exploded to not only having the particular town union, you now not even the village union, the town union, and also moving further to having divisional unions, provincial unions. And I think, again, I recall that the chairman spoke to it, so I'm not going to bother to waste too much time on it. But this has been a very potent instrument. Ndigbo, a seminal paper, which I had done some time ago, which talks about town unionism as a potent tool for the development of Igbo land. And I think I would also like to make available that paper ultimately so that people can see why the town union has always been a very significant instrument, AG Alolo Igbo land. And the town union, I must say, made a lot of contributions. Makanova Bugawa, and Ekumaka secondary school, water supply schemes, electricity supply schemes, for all. And I recall very vividly. Okay, ndi Enugu kuna tuego maka itinyoku Enugu. What was very striking at that time? Buna umuwaya na Abambo, an old woman in the town. I recall one old woman who obviously I took interest in talking to all the time. Each time I spoke to this woman, that was before the war. 2 pence. So it was essentially something that was seen as a commitment by everybody. This something happened when we were building the post office in Enugu. The same format was used. Again, importantly, Dr. M.I. Because Dr. M.I. Obara understood, in fact, NGOs in this world. We should actually call Dr. M.I. Obara as the first person that started NGOs. Because quite often NGOs or NGOs today. Because at that time, for instance, Opera's government was prepared to give you matching grants. Now, 80% of it, that they will give you 20%. And so they provided that outlet, that platform. And it worked wonderfully, because quite a lot of projects were delivered by town unions as a result of that intervention by the Obara government. Scholarships were given. Na the border going to the town. I mean, it showed you, of course, the importance in the buying attached to education and the communal nature of people wanting to do things for the greater good of everybody. So I think that basically, this was the state in which we found ourselves with the Igbo Union. Now, from there, of course, we went on to embrace the Igbo State Union. And I must say, there must be a distinction between the Igbo Union, which was merely a cultural organization, association, and its later offshoot, which of course is the Igbo State Union, which was led by the most part Chief ZCOB of blessed memory, lead the law, the Igbo State Union. This union, of course, emerged in the late 40s, and it was, of course, in response to the British government colonialism. The flashpoint at then was Lagos, where Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe wrangled with Dr. Chief Obafemi Awolowo's cultural, political, of course, Omoduduwa. And I think it was that Omoduduwa that led Ndigbo to immediately come to terms with the need to mobilize our people that through the Igbo State Union so as to become a counterbalance to what the Yorubas were trying to do at that time. So at times one might say that there was some political connotation to the Igbo State Union. So I think we need to draw that line between the differences between the Igbo State Union and, of course, the Igbo Union, which was essentially a cultural association geared towards making sure that na anyị reflect otu anyị si wee bido. Whilst the Igbo State Union had some political connotation because we wanted to protect Zik from what the Yoruba, because Zik had also gone on to do politics in the southwest part of Nigeria. What were again the contributions of the Igbo State Union? Of course, the Igbo State Union also tried to emulate the kinds of things that the Igbo unions were doing. That's why you had, of course, the schools in Kafanchan, the Igbo State Union School in Kafanchan, in Kanu, and so on and so forth down the line. But the most important instrument that we always associate with the Igbo State Union, but that now it marked the very first time Igbo as a people were to have a unifying institution that exercised leadership across board. You can see, Ndigbo Watalo, now a need for a platform that will bring us together. Because that problem, I have today, Igbo unity, they thought that that was one particular instrument. That it will give us that opportunity to be able to reach out and do many, many things, because as in you come a million or baka ofofo. Unu get looked that now the Igbo State Union is part of even in the obviously was banned as a result of the Nigerian Biafra war. And after the war ended, of course, it became necessary to see how to resurrect that institution, and that was how this more or less the beginnings of the Ohaneze started. That is, if in 1976, there were a couple of gentlemen, a couple of our distinguished leaders that met at Akan Ibiam's house, led by Dr. Obara, Chief Dennis Osadebe, Chief Dr. Kingsley Mbadiwe, Dr. Gochukwu, M.A.I. Gochukwu, Dr. Pius Okibo, Chief Jerome Udoji. Indeed, Chief Jerome Udoji was the pro tem secretary of this particular body, and they were at that time meeting consistently in Akan Ibiam's house in Enugu. At times, of course, they met in Umana, that is his village home. After a couple of meetings, at that point in time, of course, they were seen as Apex Socio-Cultural Organization of Ndigbo. But after a couple of meetings, in one of their meetings, they decided that I get Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Now, Soka, how we call about this institution and Atibido. Mana, if a particular way be fabuna, no guy put us in Aga, na the military government, Bidol Kaba imposed on us a chieftaincy system which was obviously unknown in Igbo land. And it was of which Atom Berra was the military governor at that time. I think it was the beginning of that edict that obviously led to the need to essentially come together to be able to find a way of speaking to the problems that were being created with something that was a lane to Ndigbo. And I think that na okay pharmacy where's their meeting all baraka ezigal ko je for Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe we kowalia ko bolo the grand patron of this Igbo state of this Ohaneze at that time, but of course still called Apex Cultural Organization of Ndigbo. I think that Opera Jelo Soka Onweriki Fumuzik, they later came back to another meeting and appealed to Dr. Akan Ibiam to go back to Nnamdi Azikiwe. I think he saw him, eventually got him to become the grand patron of that Apex Social Cultural Organization of Ndigbo. So all our leaders at that time were part of that institution. Eventually, that institution continued, and then was there a need to begin some sense of institutionalization of Ivaneme, and that was at the point in which Professor Ben Nwabezo came in, and of course, in one of their meetings, they now decided to make Professor Ben Nwabezo the secretary, and Dr. Sylvester Go, Secretary General of course Ben Nwabezo, and Sylvester Go was then made an assistant secretary at that time. And then the body took off. This was about 1982 and 1983. But eventually, of course, after Vabidosi, some interregnum came in because an attempt was made by MPN to appropriate this institution for political reasons. And of course, you may remember that for a short time, that institution went into coma. You will recall that it was that effort they made that brought Dr. Lex Okoye as the vice president of Nigeria. At that time, as I said, they didn't really have any institutionalized way of doing things apart from Nwabeze Fawota, Tinyepo Sylvester Go. But each meeting from Weloga or Igbo Abunabiano, most often MN Ugochukwu at times chaired their meetings, but any Igbo Bianoge would chair the meeting of that day. But eventually, the meetings continued, and Professor Ben Nwabezo then began to give some depth and need, of course, to essentially consummate an institution that would be led appropriately. And I think it was at that point that they had a meeting later on, which culminated in the election of Ezozobu as the President General of Ohaneze, with, of course, Professor Ben Nwabezo continuing as the secretary, and that was when Dr. John Wogo was then made also an assistant secretary to Professor Nwabezo. Now, I must say that Professor Nwabezo, of course, and his group did an awful lot to create the enabling environment in which we found that we now have a constitution of Ohaneze. And I think a committee during that period was also set up, of which our President General, of course, Barrister Dr. and Barrister Nyanwodo, and a number of other people participated in the generation of the working documents that gave us that constitution. I would like to, in fact, probably go just quickly to the contributions of Ohaneze. The contributions of Ohaneze were quite many. One of the biggest contributions Ohaneze made was the Oputa panel, the Ohaneze petition to the Oputa panel on human rights violations, which sat in Enugu from April 25th to May 25th of 2001. This was a very significant contribution, and it actually captured substantially with what's really happened during the war. The other thing, of course, but that they were able to mount a major effort to bring the Southern people together as a basis for cascading the need for restructuring of Nigeria. And I think they started it. And I must say that the present President General of Ohaneze essentially made an effort to concretize that effort. And that's what gave us what we might call the Okoye Declaration which I'm sure that we will also be looking at, even though some people have tried to disagree with a few things that are in that Okweme Square Declaration. But I think that was the first time we also tried. But remember that there was also the Mbokibo. I didn't want to go into that because it was not necessarily Ohaneze that gave us that particular effort. That was when Okweme led the delegation, 94, 97 Constitutional Conference, which is actually how the issue of the 6 zonal systems that we are now enjoying came about. There were other achievements, of course, of Ohaneze. I think that if you recall, there has also been a number of constitutional conferences. The Basanjo Constitutional Conference in 2005. The